Welcome to the Catapult Effect podcast. I'm Katie Wrigley, neuroscience coach and entrepreneur. This podcast is for high-performing leaders who look capable on the outside, but know the pressure of carrying too much alone. Each week, we explore the internal and external systems that create real ease, from nervous system regulation to delegation and smarter support. If you're ready to build in a way that feels steady and sustainable, you're in the right place.
Well, the same thing is true for our time margins, our mental bandwidth margin, right? Our energy margin. Those are like three other areas. Yes, financial is very important. And I'm a huge proponent of operating your business in a way where you have financial margin, but there are other types of margin. And I think sometimes we don't realize, like, okay, we're operating on empty or zero margin in all those categories. Think about how you're going to show up to sales conversations. Think about how you're going to show up to other decisions in your business. It is going to be with a completely different viewpoint and energy, right? You're going to be operating from a place of fear, scarcity, overwhelm, adrenaline, anxiety, and all of that kind of works to cloud your vision. But when we can be proactive about the design of our external system and we can be proactive about our internal operating system, that's where we start to see more and more margin. And when we're operating from a place of margin, we make completely different decisions that tend to be way more aligned and centered and, from a place of, like, I pictured what you were describing about sometimes we are really good at moving the goalpost, right? Mm-hmm. We're like, oh, well, I'm here, but that's not enough because in my mind, I wanted it to be here, right? But the more margin we can create and the more groundedness we can create, the less I've found, the less likely we are to do that measuring stick thing where we're measuring based on something outside of ourselves.
Yeah. Yes, I agree completely. And I'm thinking about a client of mine like that, just the energy piece alone. And even how the amount of energy that it takes for us to run fear, to run anxiety as a baseline is so draining that you don't even realize it or what it's doing to push people away from you. And it's not that there's anything wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. Sometimes the behavior that we engage in that can be off-putting. And a lot of times it's coming from anxiety or fear, which never feels good to be on the receiving side of that. I remember there was someone I distanced myself to because she would just come bombing in out of left field with some text that would just immediately spike my anxiety. I'm just like, I can't. And one of my clients that she's actually part of one of my group coaching programs. I want to leave her anonymous, but she was sharing it's coming up on her birthday. And last year, she still had a lot of anxiety. She'd made major progress, but she still had a lot of anxiety and she was still battling some internal patterns. And she has come leaps and bounds over this last year, just continuing to do work for herself and continuing to support herself and just expanding on the tools that she's already been taught. And last year, her birthday felt very lonely. And this year, she's had 3 different people are throwing her birthday parties. And so she's got this totally busy weekend. And it's because the anxiety is gone. She's gotten her nervous system settled. And so that anxiety that was in her field, that's not there anymore. So people have direct access. And she is, just as a side note, one of the most genuinely sweet, kind, gentle, loving souls I've ever had the pleasure of getting to know. She is just wonderful. I can't even describe it any better than that, but it's like, oh my gosh. And so as she's saying this, I'm like, yep, that wonderfulness is just seeping out of you now because there isn't anything else blocking that. And it's the same thing when we're in our business. People are going to feel that fear. Like you said, going into a sales call, if you're like, I need this sale. you're not going to hear them. And you could wind up with a client who's going to be a giant pain in your ass and make you work 10 times harder than you have to because you need that sales so much. Whereas if you can go into it with a level head of, are we going to be a good fit to work together? Yes or no? One, that's going to be a much more constructive call for both people. And you're going to be able to decide, like, is this person a good fit for me? Yes or no? And if not, give them an option of something else that's going to be a better fit for them. And yes, you're going to be able to confidently offer your services without this, I need it energy coming through, which people are going to feel. I mean, that's one of the things that makes James Wedmore an 8-figure business coach is like, he got rid of all those layers. Like,
Mhm.
he shows up completely himself all the time. He's like, I don't need you to like me. I don't need you to like think anything of me. Like, I don't even see haters on the web anymore because it just doesn't matter to me. And
Yeah.
that's someone like anybody who's in a heart-led business like that, who's making 7 or 8 figures, you are looking at someone who has done a hell of a lot of internal work on their internal systems so that those negative things we're all fighting through aren't there anymore.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you're seeing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think one example that stands out a lot is I worked for a business coaching company previously, like right before I launched my consulting company. And in that organization, there were three cohorts. There were the folks that were just starting their business, right? Then there were the folks that were like six figure, like low six figure mark. Then there were the people that were high six figure, seven figures and beyond. And what was so fascinating as just an objective onlooker was the types of conversations and the types of problems, right? Because every business owner has problems, right? We're always trying to solve for XYZ. But the types of problems, questions, experiences going from the brand new cohort to the 6-figure cohort up to the 7-figure cohort, very different. And what I saw through that and even continued to see as a consultant is like that early stage where you're first starting out tends to be highly correlated to the internal work, right? And that's where it's mindset, it's, imposter syndrome, it's fears, it's nervous system, it's all those things coming up because yes, you're stepping out into something unknown, which is scary. And that's going to force you to expand your container, right? Going back to full circle, what we started the conversation on of priming your container. So depending on where you're at, I think the shift that starts to happen is once you've worked through a lot of the mindset things and you're kind of like graduating on to this 6-figure plus category, then the things become much more about what we're talking about today. Like, how do I go from trading my energy and effort to a more scalable model? And it becomes much more about systems design and software and people and processes, right? And then you jump even ahead further, and the problems, if you will, shift again. So it's just an interesting, like, I definitely validate that because it's what I've seen in the real world as well.
Yeah, 100%. And that's sometimes tomorrow's problems block us today. Like, oh, we're going to have too much responsibility when we get there. And this goes back to what you had said earlier about the people is I don't have those. Like, those used to be huge stoppers for me, Kalika, huge blocks, but now I know. I've got you in my corner. I've got the program I'm in. I have a wonderful VA. Like, I have my people. I have a bunch of people where I'm like, oh my God, new problem. Don't know what to do. Like, help. I've got the right people to go to who are going to be like, cool, let's celebrate the fact you're here. And this is what you're going to want to put into place for the next step. Or more likely, they're going to be like, well, what do you think is going to be the best next step for you? Like, let me think on that. But they'll ask me questions that'll help me find the answer already inside of me to take off. But that like tomorrow problem can keep us stuck today. And if any part of us thinks our identity, like we had talked about before, is going to be at risk when we get here, or we're going to lose something important to us if we get there, that's going to stop us from getting there. And so allowing tomorrow's problems to be tomorrow's problems and work through like, okay, yeah, that's a really great excuse to like stay small today. What is your actual problem today that is holding you back? And what can you do about that? And you've been amazing at being able to find those for yourself and to have that honest conversation with yourself. And with your permission, I will totally edit this out if you don't want to. But would it be okay if I shared a couple of the results that you shared with me, Kalyca?
Yeah, of course.
All right. So one of the things that you had mentioned was in a 2-month period, you had actually doubled your business. And we had done 2 sessions in that period of time. So do you remember at that point in time, or were you even thinking about how is this going to help my business? Or was it just being so aware that this was the thing in your way? And then since you are one human with one nervous system, once those things were cleared, doubling your business actually came in. But I'm curious, like, how much do you remember about your thought process at that time that
Mm,
helped you focus on the things that you wanted to focus on that wound up allowing you to double your business in
yeah.
2 months?
I feel like for me, it's been a ongoing journey of not wanting to repeat my old pattern of linear of like, okay, I know how I approached my career prior to starting my business. I know how I approached ultra running. I know how I've approached all these different things. And I've known where it led me, which was to complete and total burnout. And so I've always had that in my mind of like, I want to do this differently. And so I think that was a big part of me wanting to work with you of just like continuing to deepen into how do I continue to show up to my business differently without that old grind energy? Right. And of course, at first, so foreign, right? Like I was constantly battling the feelings of like, well, if I'm not working 80 hours, like you said, I'm not doing enough, right? There's always more to be done. I'm like, but I have intentionally tried to design my business outside of that old broken model. So I think that was part of it, of like just an awareness of like, okay, I don't want to be in this grind, grind, grind energy. I think that example specifically, I always had this block almost of it was like a safety thing of like wanting to keep myself small because I was afraid if I was not small, if I was seen, heard, that I would be at risk. And that goes into a lot of experiences, which I don't think are necessary to get into in this conversation, but you can imagine, right? Fill in the blanks. All these different things that happened to me early on taught me that it was not safe to be seen. And, so I think that was the biggest one. I think of like me creating safety in my body here and now has allowed me to show up differently where I'm not trying to keep myself small. Like I'm showing up as, no, this is what I'm an expert in. Like this is my passion. This is why I'm here. And this is what I can help you do. So that's a huge part of it. I think the other layer, which you might have wanted to ask me about next, was what the other thing we've uncovered through this work is I've actually had that fear of success and I've had multiple different layers of it that again, like I wouldn't have realized were even there if it weren't for doing the sessions that you do, right? And when I say fear of success, I mean like there's multiple layers here, but like, oh, I realized I was actually inadvertently holding myself back because I was afraid of XYZ if I got a certain level of success.
Yeah. Yeah, and I thank you for sharing that. So, part of what I'm hearing there was you weren't going, I need to double my business. You weren't focused on the outcome. You were focused on, okay, I know that I've had these tendencies in the past. I want to make sure that I'm not in them again. And this is what is coming up for me today.
Yes.
And then working on and they were two very things. Different things. I don't want to go into the details of those because again, it's not important, but it's any one thing that's running as a pattern in us, like whether it's how we feel about our health, our body, how we feel about different situations in the past. It doesn't matter what those things are. Like if there's something there that we're like digesting that's drawing energy from us, it's going to give us less margin. It's going to give us less movement forward, and being able to have the expansiveness that you talked about in that quantum leap, that vertical shooting up is like, and you can even ask yourself, like, am I ready for this? Like, if you could have everything that you've been working for right now, like, how would that feel? And some people are going to be like, oh, whoa, hey, I'm not ready for that. Like, okay, great. Look at that. what makes you not ready? You're working towards this. If you're not ready now, you're not going to be ready when you hit it. And guess what? That goalpost is going to keep moving.
Mm,
So having that conversation with yourself now of, okay, what is coming up for me when I think about reaching my goals? And if one of them is like you never enjoy success and part of you wants to cry because you still don't feel successful, it didn't change anything inside of you despite having this big win, like that's going to continue to get in your way of like what is that thing in there? And
yeah.
being able to have the courage to look at it and shift it and release it, like that's some badass work right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I also, yeah, just to further express the importance of that is like if you are the limiter, right? Like if you get to a certain point in your business where you become the ceiling, right? Because you can only give so much effort. Well, if you've got all these patterns running underneath the surface, that is lowering your capacity by who knows, 10%, 20%, 40%, 80%. That is taking from this like cup that you have to pour from, right? So I think that was what was coming through when you were saying all that is like, yeah, I think I also was able to in releasing some of those patterns that were running, like I was able to rekindle a lot of my clarity, energy, curiosity, compassion, like all those, they call them like the C's, right? Like the 8 C's or whatever. I was able to like regain a lot of that because I wasn't just like burning energy in the background.
Yeah. And that makes sense. Again, like it's one nervous system. So if you're pushing stuff down, the nervous system's taking all kinds of energy to do that. You don't have the energy to be expansive because those are high vibrational energy levels. Like everything is just an energetic level. And that joy, that creativity, those are higher energetic levels. You won't have that energy to be in those states if you're pushing down this other stuff.
Yeah.
And so there's some grace, there's definitely a willingness and ability to let go of judgment for yourself that's important in these pieces in order to even find them, to even look at them. In another result that you had shared, which I friggin' love. And again, you had the people, you have the systems, you already had that container in place. And there was a block and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's to me, it's like your most effortless offer of getting people onto the high impact platform. You have a quick call with them, like, and you've started to shift that into a group model. And then you've got an amazing tech person, Corey, who's able to help do the onboarding. So you have the right people, you have the right systems there. And you had mentioned you basically had a 4x leap in that part of your business in just one session. And you actually thought you're like, oh, we're not completely through it. There's going to be a second session to do it. And before we even got to that second session, like boom, you were out from the races and took off and 4x'd the amount of people signing on to the software week by week.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. It really is like quantum. And
Yeah.
again, like what you said, it is twofold. But me, luckily being the systems girl, I've got all of the external stuff ready and dialed. And it's just been a matter of me going deeper into rewiring the internal system. And it is really amazing what, even with not just my story, but stories of lots of clients that I worked with, of what becomes possible when these systems are like optimized for exponential I almost want to call it like multiplication, right? Because it's not just like, oh, we're scaling a business. It's like, no, you're like multiplying your impact. That's what it's really about. And yeah, I kind of like that better than like now we're primed and optimized for scaling. It's like, no, now we're primed and optimized to triple, quadruple, 10x, 100x our impact.
Yes, yes, and you had a really powerful reframe that I feel like is comfortable to share, and again, I can edit it out if not. But one of the things that came up, and a lot of heart-led entrepreneurs, business owners really feel this, is we are here, we are of service. Sales are of service, making that mindset to know that we are of service. Like our business actually has very little to do with us. We're a vehicle to be of service to other people. And just getting to that piece, that alone can be a mindset set shift. But one of the things that came up is you realize the more revenue that I have coming in, it means the more people I've helped. the more women entrepreneurs I've empowered to be able to go big in their business. And that is the thing that lights you up the most. And so when you made that connection, oh my gosh, the more revenue I have coming in, that means the more I'm doing this. Like that's a big full body yes, which is going to be continuing to pull in more of that. So, like a little bit of science, a little bit of woo here, but that is what is going to continue to pull in people who want to work with you is because they're feeling that coming off of you, and that's what they're responding to. And to watch you do that, and also to see like how your team is responding to it. And the beautiful thing of having the right people is then those people go, okay, wow, if I now have this many people that I'm onboarding in a week versus this many people, how can I do this in a way that can scale? And then that gives them the opportunity to get creative and figure out what works for me to be able to do this to support this system. And they can shift into that model. So there's a really cool ripple effect of empowerment that happens when we have the right people, when we have the right systems, when we have the right strategy. Going back to your initial 3 pillars of creating this successful scaling business, is we've got to have all 3 of those in there. But when we do, like, you've got your quantum container right there.
Yes, absolutely. That was a huge full body shift for me, for sure. That was like the truth with a capital T that came out of that session. It's funny because since then, I had a conversation with a gal who's a colleague of mine. She coaches alongside of me in a mastermind that I'm part of. And what she was talking about when we were having this conversation was she likes to picture the money as a thank you note.
Aw.
So it's like every time you get more revenue, you're like getting more thank you notes, which makes total sense, right? Like we hire someone to come clean our house, right? And we give them an extra tip as a thank you, or we pay their service fee because we're like, thank you so much. And it's the same thing in our businesses. Like the revenue we bring in are the thank you notes. And if we can view it from that perspective, it's like it doesn't hold as much of its like baggage or whatever that it comes with. But I will say there's a big difference in like saying and thinking that in our rational brain, right? Like I could have had that thought a long time ago, but experiencing it in the session when you're like rewiring that message into the nervous system is a completely different thing.
Yeah. Oh, I love that part of programming in. This has been such an awesome conversation, Kalyca. Thank you so much. I could keep going, but we've been going for like an hour and 20 minutes. So this is going to be like, but I love it. We're just going to chunk it up into the smaller pieces where it makes sense so that people can listen to each part as they want to. And before we wrap, is there anything that you want to say to the listener? And also, where can they find you so they can reach out? Like, I need to be on high impact. And I just want to give a nod super quick before you wrap. Like, my life has gotten so much easier since I went onto the high impact platform. Like, look at all of the different tools you're using now, between what I used for email, what I used for video, what I used for my community, what I used for courses. It was actually a $2 back in my favor going onto Kalyca's system that did all of that in one for me, versus having all of those different payments coming out each month. It actually, so it was pretty much a net zero, but I'm like, $2 ahead. And Kalyca has an incredible affiliate program. So if you bring someone else into the software, she's going to give you a thank you for that in the form of money. So you can actually, good chance you're going to be spending less money month to month to be on Kalyca's system than someone else's. So I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that, because it's made a huge difference. And that's even without going into her inner circle that she has for strategy, where we meet every week and we continue to get actionable tools to continue to make our life easier. Just the platform alone has been amazing. And the extra strategy on top, like full body yes again. So now I will stop talking so you can let people know where to find you, and any last thought that you have,
Thank
Kalyca.
you. Thank you so much. I will just give a really, really brief, quick commercial here for High Impact. So it's called High Impact because it was built for impact making professionals. And, talking about this whole linear grind mode, one of the things I've seen so often is that in that path, or on that path, folks exist with this like fragmentation, right? Where it's like, Okay, if we're talking about effort and results and how they're correlated, if your effort is scattered between 7 different browser tabs, that alone is going to help shift you over toward that exponential line. Because if you really backed yourself out and saw the amount of time you spent switching between tools, oh my gosh, that is like a massive, massive energy and time leak.
Yeah.
So after seeing that for years and years and years working with high impact makers, that's where the software was born. So it is an all-in-one tool that does everything you need to manage your business from messaging, emails, social media scheduling, all of your different inboxes in one place, content, digital products, web pages, funnel page, like the list goes on and on. But anyways, it was designed to be an all-in-one tool. So helping you get away from that fragmentation. But if you want to learn more about it, it's highimpact.com, and it is HIGHM, letter M, PACT. So there's no I in it, high impact. And then I'm on Instagram as my main profile is Kalyca Zarich. It's actually my full name, Kalyca Jen Zarich on Instagram, or you can find me on LinkedIn. Those are the 3 places I hang out. So
Awesome.
thank you so much, Katie. This was a blast.
Thank you. This was a lot of fun for me as well. And I'll make sure that all of the links are below Kalyca so that people can reach out to you, schedule time. And thank you for this amazing interview and this discussion about systems, both internal and external, and how we need both of them for that container for the quantum leap. So, and thank you to the listener for being with us today. And until next episode, please be well. Thanks for being here on the Catapult Effect podcast. If today's episode supported you, share it with another leader who's ready to create more ease in how they build, and leave a review so more heart-led leaders can find these conversations. You don't have to do everything yourself. When the right systems are in place, inside and out, business gets lighter. Until next time, protect your capacity.